Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we are not going to do a cooking video. I'm doing leftovers, but as I was heating up the leftovers, I wanted to talk to you about two things. And they're kind of related. One is forever chemicals, and the other one is plastics in your body. So, it is estimated that the average person ingests one credit card amount of plastic every week. And I want you to think about that for a while. That's a lot of plastic. The other thing that we have a real problem with in our society is forever chemicals. What are forever chemicals? They are um, fluorinated chemicals that stay in our body, and they're highly toxic. And there's a wide range of them, over 10,000. Um, there's a movie on them called Dark Waters that you may want to take a look at. But some of the places that you're most likely going to find them is in paper and cardboard food packaging. Think of takeout containers, popcorn bags, pizza boxes, ready-made cakes, etc., and nonstick cookware, Teflon. In textiles, waterproof outdoor clothing and equipment, carpets, mattresses. In cosmetics, hair conditioner, foundation, cream, sunscreen. And electronics, our smartphones. Okay. Another one that was recently found to be a problem is your smartwatches and the bands of them that you're absorbing forever chemicals there. And then in plastics, one of the biggest culprits is bottled water, especially if it gets warm. Well, you don't know from the time that it's at the plant to the time that it comes to you whether it's been kept at a steady temperature or not. And I can remember years ago my daughter saying, "Oh, this water's stale." Well, I think what she was tasting literally was the forever chemicals and plastics that had leached into her water from the bottles being in the backseat of the car, for example. I have never been a fan of bottled water. It wasn't a thing when I was growing up, and when it came out, I just didn't get it. I grew up in the West Coast in Washington, where we have phenomenal water. Artesian springs and glacial water, and the water just tasted good, and it didn't need a lot of chlorine, and it didn't need fluoride, and it didn't need all of that thing. And most of my life, I've spent living on a farm with a well, and you didn't need water softeners. You didn't need anything. I mean, depending on the region you live, some people did. Some people had a problem with, um, you know, different hard, mineral chemicals in their water that made it smell funny or discolored things. But I was very fortunate. I always had wonderful artesian wells, and the water was cold, 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 and just wonderful tasting. But some things I know that I've done that weren't good. I cooked in Teflon for, many, many years. I mean, I think most of us did. And every time you cooked, you were getting some of those in your body. Um, my daughter bought me a Keurig a number of years ago, and it worked really well for me. I mean, I'm one person, so the Keurig single cup system was, handy. But when I think about the water going through the filter and then the cup at high temperatures, how much plastic was I ingesting with that? And so I stopped using that, and I went to an old fashioned percolator. You can get plastics from tea bags. So I would highly encourage you to use an infuser. I have an infuser on my teapot itself, but there's also hand infusers that you just they open and close and are really easy to fill. And you just, set them in your cup with some hot water and let them do their job. And the nice thing about a stainless steel infuser like that is that it's forever. Um, it's a one-time purchase, and my teapot is glass, and it has a stainless steel insert in it, and I just cut open the tea bags and put it in there, or you can buy loose tea. But I think we really need to be aware. I mean, how many of us have cooked, ready-made meals in the microwave, and think about the heat there and what the plastic is doing and all of that. How many have cooked on in plastic bowls and plates and right, because you can't put a lot of different things in the microwave. And I don't use the microwave anymore because, again, I think that it's the way that the microwave works and what it's doing to molecules, I just don't think that it's healthy. And then, what's it doing to your health if you're standing near it? I'm just at that point where I don't see the need for it. And I have found that using my steamer to reheat things keeps it moist, it gets it plenty hot, and it doesn't take all that long. Maybe at the most 2 or 3 minutes longer than the microwave, and I can just walk away from it. And I'm not worried about getting irradiated. I'm not worried about plastics in my food. So, and cosmetics and sunscreens are another big one. If you think about all of your skin is an organ, and you're slathering sunscreen on it, it has forever chemicals in it. What are you doing to your health? And all of that accumulates in your liver. And then it's no wonder that we have problems with, for example, pancreatic cancer now. Historically, pancreatic cancer only happened in people with that had huge alcohol problems or some kind of familial anomaly. Now it's become quite common, and that really, really saddens me. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we're putting on our skin and what we're ingesting. So, how do you get rid of forever chemicals? I'm not sure that you can. But what you can do is stop taking in more. And so, what I'm going to highly encourage you is if you're putting something on your skin, make it natural, like coconut oil, olive oil, castor oil. If you are, you can use Vaseline too because it doesn't absorb it, but it creates a barrier, and it works really well. But I would stay away from commercial skin creams. If you have to, as far as sun exposure, I personally think you should get as much sun exposure as you can. Now, you may have to go about it gradually, especially if you're very fair skinned. Okay, so that you're not burning. I'm not suggesting that burning is good, but I do think that getting natural sun exposure is very, very beneficial to your health. But if you have a sensitive skin, take it gradually. Wear a hat if after a little bit. Wear long sleeves. Wear sunglasses if you have to. But again, the retina getting sun exposure does amazing things for your hormonal system and for your health. So I don't think that if you don't need those sunglasses, I would avoid it. Um, and again, you might have to start gradually. Maybe 10 minutes is all you can handle. And over time, get up to 15 minutes and get up to 20 minutes and maybe up to an hour. The time of day, early morning and late evening, sunrise, sunset are some of the best times to get sun exposure. And the sun is at a lower latitude so that it's coming in at a different angle and it has a different response, but it works on your melatonin and other hormones, your ghrelin and your leptins and serotonins, and it really has a number of very beneficial um, properties to it for both brain health, psychological health, physical health, down to the mitochondrial level. And really, I want you to start thinking about the mitochondria in the cell as your workhorses, and they need to be healthy. Those forever chemicals get in our body, the plastics get in our body, and they interrupt mitochondrial health. That's the same thing that seed oils do. So again, if you wonder why does she keep saying don't eat seed oils? That's why. Because they impact the mitochondrial health and therefore your health, your energy, your ability to metabolize foods, and to get the nutrients out of the foods that you eat. Remember that if the food is coming in a package, it's probably not even real food as far as the definition of what food does. So I would highly encourage you shop the outside of the grocery store, you grow as much of your own food as possible, you avoid chemicals on your food as much as possible. Um, and practice good gardening techniques. Are you going to get rid of all pests? No, especially it depends where you live. Like when I lived up in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, I didn't have much problem with pests. They just weren't really an issue, and organic farming was very, very easy. I came to Kentucky, and oh my goodness, there are bugs here I've never seen in my life, and lots of them. You had all sorts of, bean beetles and potato beetles and, Japanese beetles and diseases, and it was just like, whoa, what happened? But I also think it's not uncommon around this region to do a lot of spraying, herbicides and pesticides. And I think that then when the bugs find a place like my property that it doesn't have any chemicals, well, oh boy, they're in heaven. And so, I notice that even when I feed the birds, right? A day or two of feeding the birds, and pretty soon, I mean, I have hundreds of them of all different species. And I think it's because, however animals, whether it's pheromones or whether it's, you know, a sound that they make or whatever the case may be, that they communicate with each other and they tell each other this is the place to be, So um, it's just something that I've noticed, and I'm working with it. It just means that you get creative. And one of the things that I started using last year was kale and clay. All it is a really, really fine clay that you spray on your plants. So it's dirt basically, right? It's a white in color, but the bugs don't like to eat it. Their mouth gets all clay filled. And if you've ever been on a trail ride or out hiking with people and you're in the end of the line and you're getting all the dirt in your face, you can understand it's not a very nice feeling in your mouth. So it does a really good job of repelling the insects. It doesn't necessarily kill them, but they don't like it, and so they go somewhere else. And so it has been fairly effective, especially on my fruit trees. Um, but I'm playing around with different things like that are organic, that are safe, that aren't going to wreck the habitat of the earth. And soil is a living organism. Okay, so when we till, when we add chemicals to it, it's the same as when we do it to our own body. We disrupt the nature of that organism, and we kill it. And so soil and dirt are not the same thing. Dirt is inert, it doesn't have any life to it. Soil is a living, breathing organism. And so when I do no-till, I'm leaving the health of the soil that's there alone, and I'm adding to it. And so when I use wood chips on my paths, or when I add compost to my beds, I'm feeding all of the microorganisms in the soil, the fungi and the bugs that are supposed to be there, and all of the different micro organisms that live in soil, that break it down, that release minerals, and your plants do better. So I would encourage you to look at permaculture and just think about your soil differently, not as dirt, but as a living organism. And like when you lay cardboard down over it and then the grass dies there, the roots have left pathways, right, where the roots were. And that allows your new plants to have a place to go without disrupting everything around it. Now, again, you got to be careful. You got to use brown cardboard with minimal, if any, writing on it, because all of those inks and all of those are forever chemicals. So, do you see where I'm going? Is we have a lot of poisons in our environment, and what you want to do, like I don't wear a watch. And so I obviously don't have a smartwatch, so I'm not getting forever chemicals from that band. I've switched to bar soap that is made, I get it off of Etsy, and it's made on a farm, and they're using things like goat's milk and shea butter and coconut oil and all sorts of, naturally occurring things to make the shampoos and soaps. Same with the deodorant. I don't buy store-bought deodorant. If there's a whole list of aluminum this and a this and a steroid and a blah 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 blah, if there's a list of things that you can't pronounce, you don't want that on your skin. And you got to think, under your underarm is a huge, the brachial plexus is under there, which is a huge nerve. Think of a super highway in a city where all the clover leaves are coming and everything's merging onto a main arterial. Well, you have that going on there with your nerves, and then you also have veins, and you have arteries, and you have lymphatics, and they drain for your arm and your head and your neck and your chest. And so it's a prime area for poisons to get in your body if you're using these crazy, you know, deodorants and antiperspirants out there. And I found that the stuff that is natural works just as well. but I'm not putting toxins straight into my body. Um, as far as skincare, I've switched over to just either coconut oil or castor oil. And I've never been a big makeup wearer because it just didn't seem right to me. And I've always been pretty athletic, and the putting makeup on and then going out and sweating just wasn't a good thing. So, and I never have been real big on sunscreens because I like to get a tan. And people were like, "Oh, you're aging your skin and blah blah blah." Well, maybe so. But now that we're learning so much about ultra red light and near ultra red light, infrared light, I'm sorry, um, we're learning that really what I was doing was very good for myself. And it's probably why I don't get sick. It's probably why I'm still functioning much higher than most people my age. And so I would encourage you to look at everything. If you have plastics and stuff in your kitchen, get rid of it. Store all your food in glass containers. It's a little bit of an investment up front, but because the Pyrex and stuff that they use for storage containers is really pretty stout glass, and I have not had a problem with it breaking. They do have plastic tops, but my food is rarely touching that, and the tops come off before I do anything with it. For water, I would highly encourage you to get something similar. I use a Berkey, but something similar to that, and filter all of your water. And then if you're taking it with you, get a glass water bottle with a silicone sleeve or stainless steel. And just stay away from plastic. Just stay away from it. Buy some nice china. You can get it even at the dollar store. I mean, you don't have to go crazy over it, but I, I look for china that's oven safe because I like to put my plates in the oven and pre-warm them because it helps keep your food warm. Um, so, just make a few little changes. Don't use Dixieware and stuff like that unless you absolutely have to. Um, use real napkins. Don't, I do use some paper towels in the house, but usually more for cleanup. I've been using cloth napkins forever because I just throw it in the laundry with everything else. It doesn't cost me anything to clean them up, and they're so much nicer on your skin and your face. I mean, it's kind of like when I take a little extra time to plate my food up. Why? Well, because I like an attractive plate. And just because I'm not going out to restaurants doesn't mean that I still don't like to have that presentation like I'm at a restaurant. If you go to a really nice restaurant, they use, cloth napkins. Why? Because it makes you feel special. So why don't you do that for yourself every day? It's not hard. It doesn't cost much. Yes, there's an initial output for the napkins, but when you figure I'm still using napkins I used 30 years ago, 40 years ago, was it really that big of expense compared to paper, towels or napkins that you throw away? I'd get away from dryer sheets. Um, Try and go, I'm looking at switching to a natural detergent too, because everything you put on your skin gets absorbed. It's the largest organ in your body, and it is a filter, very similar to how, the liver and kidneys filter, and we're overtaxing it on filtering out things, and it doesn't do a very good job with the forever chemicals and the plastics, and you're killing yourself. You're giving yourself cancer, you're giving yourself metabolic disorders, and there's no need for it. There are alternatives, and they work very well. So, just a little health tip today. Get out, get sunshine, throw those sunscreens away, throw all of those store-bought junk away, and get real whole food and real moisturizers for your skin that are made, single ingredient things like castor oil or coconut oil if you need to. And if you're going to use a sunscreen, use a zinc base, which is a barrier base. The molecule of zinc is too big to be absorbed, so it sits on top of the skin. Usually they're white, so they're not real pretty. It takes a lot to really kind of get them absorbed into your skin, but it's a much better option than things that are easily absorbed and then taken in and you can't get rid of. So that's today's tip. As far as news going on, as you know, Trump is just slashing expenditures here, there, and everywhere, and people are going nuts about it. And I'm glad. I think that, I've had to reassess my budget many times in life. And that's the first thing you do is you go, I don't need that, I don't need that, I don't need that. And yeah, it's painful, especially if you've gotten used to some luxuries that you can't afford anymore. But you know what? You survive. And we don't need to be giving all these other countries billions of dollars while we have veterans living on the street. We don't have to be spending money for people that don't want to come into work. We don't need to be spending millions on condoms to go to Gaza. Um, and knowing the people there, they probably didn't use them. So I don't even understand why were we spending money to do sex changes on people, and why are we footing a bill for abortions to kill? And one thing that people are not talking about in secular news, and I think it's really, really huge, is when we protect the children, when we take care of those most, the elderly, the widows, the veterans, it makes God happy and He will bless our country. So when we fund abortions, that's a type of child sacrifice. God doesn't like it. When we alter God's creation with sex changes and chemical castration, God doesn't like it. When we don't take care of the fighting men, right, and women that served our country and then became disabled either mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be, God doesn't like it. He's a fighting man, okay? When Jesus comes back, the Greek word means puff. He's going to blow and kill all of evil. Okay? David was a man after his own heart, and he was absolutely a warrior, right? And he had his mighty men with him, and he took care of them. When we don't take care of those that are willing to sacrifice their lives for our freedoms, I don't think God likes that. And I know He doesn't like it when we don't take care of our children. So, when we threw them out of the schools, I don't think He liked that. Again, as a parent, you got to think of it as a parent, right? If you were a parent and here's this beautiful child that you bore and have taken care of, and then someone says, well, you made it wrong and everything you're doing is wrong, and you love that child with everything you have, you're not going to take it well. So I think we're going to see blessings from this. Now, I'm also hearing, even on the evangelical side, on the prophecy side, well, what's Trump doing letting these, tech giants create their own power? What about our power? Well, you know what? You can't have it both ways. AI is not going away. Crypto is not going away. They both use a ton of energy. Crypto mining uses a ton of energy. AI uses a ton of energy. And they're either going to take it off the grid and cause brownouts and rolling blackouts, or we build more power. And why shouldn't they be the ones that pay for that power, putting it in, maintaining it, and get the benefits from it? I see no problem with that whatsoever. It also opens the door for us to do something similar. There is a way of doing nuclear fusion, I believe it is, that it doesn't take up much space and it's very safe and it's very effective and it's very clean. Perhaps that's in the future that all of us switch off of being dependent on a grid to something like that. That's how innovation works. But they're going to need the power. They're either going to take it from the grid so we don't have it, or they're going to make new power sources. And why not make them fund it and pay for it? I know in a town that I grew up in, there was one small electrical co-op, and then the main the city had its own power with Puget Sound Energy. Well, that little co-op, the power was like a third of the price of with Puget Sound Energy, and they never had outages because they took such good care of things. So there's something to be said about ownership of something and responsibility in taking care of it. Okay, you see it in your own home, right? If you own your home, you tend to take care of your roof, you tend to take care of your gutters. If you're renting, a lot of people don't care and things get run down, right? So I don't have a problem with that. Do I like AI? No, I really don't. And I think one of the reasons that, Jesus said, above all things, do not be deceived. There's going to be so much deception. You can't tell anymore if an image is real or not, if a video is real or not. There's cameras everywhere. Privacy is gone. You know, the new iPhones, the 16s, they designed it to be your best friend and know more about you than you know about yourself. It's listening and watching everything you do so that it can be there for you. Do I think that's good? No, absolutely not. I don't want ring doorbells. I don't want my phone listening to me. I don't want to be spied on. I don't like cameras everywhere. I think all of that's bad, but I don't think you're going to get rid of them. The best thing you can do is live out in the country like me where it's not real cost effective. The nearest cell tower is 10 miles away. My service sucks. But you know what? I'm not getting radiated by it. I'm not getting 5G by it. And there is absolute research that shows that this low energy vibration and the 5G and whatnot causes cancer, that it causes disease, that it can impact your mental function, and it can basically make it so that they can do mind control on you. The Havana syndrome is real. So the less you're in a populated place, the less those things impact you. Don't put your cell phone up to your ear. It's highly dangerous for your brain, the energy that it's putting out. There's been proof that the big high energy lines causes earthquakes because there's energy in the earth and there's energy on that, and they interact. And so when an energy force is coming through the earth like a wave, it's going to go wherever it's easiest to come out, and that tends to be where those energy lines are. They're also where drill points are. So am I saying not drill? No. Am I saying don't build voltage lines? No. But just be aware that those areas have more earth movement, and be aware. I've never liked living near those big, heavy power lines. I never thought it was healthy. I didn't like seeing livestock near them. But that land tends to be cheaper, so it's not uncommon to see people living underneath them. But I do think that they're impacting their health. I think they're at a greater risk of seizures and other brain issues. Even brain cancers and tumors. I can't prove that. I think there are studies that show it, but I think most of it is just this kind of, the Holy Spirit saying, stay away. And I've told you that my daughter used to be able to tell when those high energy power lines were near, and she'd get headaches. Mom, one of those lines is coming up. I got a headache. And sure enough, we'd go another mile and there it'd be. She had no idea. She was 3, 4 years old. She didn't know. But it kind of freaked me out as a mom that it was having such an impact on her. And sure enough, in her teenage years, she developed a seizure disorder. I think it was connected. So, anyways, be aware of those things. Get away from technology, get away from these energy sources as much as you can. Keep your living clean. Use glass and stainless steel. Throw out your Tupperware. Throw out your Teflon. Go back to cast iron. There are some new surfaces that seem to be pretty good, but I'd still be cautious, okay? Because it won't surprise me if 10 years down the road, these supposed ones that don't scratch off. And, cast iron is tried and true. It's been around for, hundreds, if not, longer than that, years. And they're pretty easy to season. It really, once you have a good seasoned pan, it's not that hard. Just put a little oil in it when you're done. But just use animal fats, or avocado oil. But you're fine with using animal fats, lard and that type of thing, tallow. They're good for you. They're not going to hurt you. We were sold a lie. And I know it's hard to wrap your head around that, but I was told, I know, but it was a lie. It was told to you to make money. Pure and simple. Food and drugs should never be in the same, FDA, food and drugs should not be together. And when you look, it literally is the same people producing the drugs to fix the problems that they created with your food. Literally the same people, same corporations. So don't support the corporations. The only way you're going to get around all of these things being an issue for you is to stay healthy. And you stay healthy by doing what God told you to do, how God designed you. And you cannot tell me that you can't do that, because if someone like me hasn't needed medical services since 2007, and I probably could have got through that too. I mean, I just was tired of bleeding all the time. But I'd bled like that for probably 10 years. I mean, I probably could have gone another 10 years and then gone through menopause without it. I was just like, it's getting hard to work. I got blood running down my leg during surgery. This just isn't, this has gotten too far. But even then, I didn't take any medications after my surgery. I didn't have pain. I didn't have any problems. The surgery was done. I went home the same day, and a few days later, I was back at work. And the reality was, I never stopped working because I had a ranch and I had animals to take care of. So I just was really careful not to lift because I didn't want to pop the sutures down there. You don't want your bowels hanging out. Um, but it healed really, really fast. So if I could go that long, that's almost 20 years now, you can do it too. Now, you've seen in my cooking videos, I have a little bit of a muffin top going on. I don't like it. So guess what? Besides doing intermittent fasting, which I primarily am doing as a detox to get these forever chemicals out of my body, hopefully, and get plastics out of my body, and to recalibrate and reestablish a healthy metabolism. That's my primary reason for doing it. But it also helps in burning fat, especially visceral fat around my organs that are hard to get to. Well, I've decided, it's still quite not enough, so I'm walking. And what I found out about where I live is there's not very many options for safe places to walk outside. I was spoiled in the Northwest where within a half hour of my house, I had three or four choices of really nice trails through different woods and estuaries and whatnot to go walking, beach walking, and big old ranches that have been converted over to walking trails, and state parks and national parks. And there were just a lot of options. And so, you could go to a different place every day and easily walk 2 to 5 miles at each place without going over the same trail twice. I've learned there just isn't anything like that around here. So I can see why different regions of the country have different health issues just because they don't have the infrastructure. And I was spoiled. But, if I have to go around a circle, I went to the city park, which meant walking around a couple baseball diamonds, Little League Park. It wasn't very exciting, but, everywhere else is so thick in mud and underwater with the snow melting that, it's actually kind of dangerous because I don't want to fall. And if you've ever walked on wet slick clay, it's like ice, and I've fallen on it. It's not, I'm getting to that age. I'm in my mid 60s that falling is not really an option anymore. One of these days I'm going to break something, and I don't want to be that person. So I'm going to stay, on the areas that are safer to walk on, and that's the city park, and twice around was about a mile and a half. So I got to go 4 times around to do my 3 miles. But I had one of my dogs that had never been out on a leash before, and she was kind of freaking out, so I kept it shorter. And I'm going to do some weight training. Why? Because again, I want to target certain areas. And yes, I can lose the weight and get fit again and get healthy again without that. But there's no reason just because I'm in my 60s that I can't have a really fit body. And I want to show you all it's feasible. and that it isn't a lot of hard work, and that you don't have to have a gym membership. And, I mean, the other thing I did was I put up a bunch of stall pellets and feed today, and they're 40-pound bags. And, I did that like 20 times. So that was 20 reps of 40 pounds. Um, and they're not easy 40 pounds because they're awkward. Um, so, use your body, use it doing work on your in your yard and in your garden, on your ranches if you're fortunate to live on a ranch or farm, and if not, walk. Like I said, walking is still the best, and maybe you live somewhere like me that it's not easy, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. You just have to, maybe it's not as fun. I could do something like a stationary bike, but I want to be outside. I want that sunlight and I want that fresh air. And there's just something about being outdoors that's good for the mind, good for the soul. So um, that's really, and we talked a little bit about brown fat in the past. We'll do more on it, but I want more brown fat and less white fat. And being at 66 degrees or under, and actually I'd say 60 degrees and under, for at least 2 hours increases the amount of brown fat. It converts white fat to brown fat. And I want as much brown fat as possible because it's thermogenic. It makes heat. And by making heat, it's making energy. And by making energy, it's healthier for your body, and you're burning um, the unnecessary fat. You're pulling that out into lipogenesis, and you're um, or lipolysis, and you're using that for fat burning. And you want to get out of sugar burning all the time and into fat burning. And the only way you do that is to help your body restructure itself. So one way to do that is, while the weather is cooler, get out there and exercise in it and be outside in it. And again, you're also getting the light. So there's so many pieces to that puzzle, but you don't even have to know the science behind it. All you have to know is that when it's colder outside and I get outside, that it's good for my body. When I go outside and I get sunlight, it's good for my body. You don't have to know the exact chemistry behind it or the biology behind it. You just have to know that it's good. And I promise you, you'll see the difference. The other thing that I know, and I was thinking about it for myself because sleep has been one of my big issues the last year or so. When I've been really physically active, I slept just fine. So I do think that the element that's been missing in my life for my sleep is that really good physical activity. On the days that I'm doing really hard labor on the farm, I sleep fine those nights. And so doing retrospection on why sleep is an issue, I really think that it's a lack of, physical exercise, because I've always been super active. In the last few years, I really, really slowed down. And I don't think that's a good thing. So, you know, I'm going to attack it. And that's my mission. And again, you get to watch me go through it. And I guarantee you that you'll see change, and it'll be positive change. So I'm going to leave you on that. Don't fret about what's going on in the world. I think we're doing enough things that we're going to get some favor from God. Although I will warn that if you go to look in the books of Judges and Kings, you'll see that even when a king came along that was better than the one before him, if he didn't get rid of an Asherah pole, or he didn't get rid of all of it, God still found that he wasn't good enough. So God really, really wants us to work towards righteousness. Now, there's none righteous, no, not one, unless we accept Jesus. And then the Holy Spirit leads us to that righteousness. But we can't sacrifice kids. We can't use them as pawns. We can't let the devil attack them. We need to protect them, and we need to give them the best opportunities in life. We can't be killing babies, and we can't be doing infanticide, and we can't be doing all of these horrible surgeries on them and life altering drugs on them. I mean, that's just not okay. And we really shouldn't be doing that to ourselves either. God is perfect, therefore everything he makes is perfect. You may not think you're perfect, but you're perfect for what he wants of you. And you can do what you can to make yourself better, but I would highly suggest you do that in the framework that God provides. Good whole foods, sleep, exercise. I mean, it's really that basic. Get away from things that are highly manufactured, okay? Whether it be the food being processed or the container that it's in. Stick with glass and stainless steel. Pretty easy. Again, you don't have to get real crazy on this. Glass, stainless steel, maybe ceramics. Um, it's that easy. So I'm going to let you go on that. Have a wonderful day. I'll be back later if something, crazy comes along. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow, the Lord willing. I'm going to be getting a rotisserie chicken tomorrow. It's shopping day. So I'll show you how I kind of use that for a few days. And then I take the carcass and I make that into some bone broth. So nothing gets wasted. Even the bones get ground up into a pate for the dogs. And that marrow and all the calcium and stuff in the bones is very good for them. You just don't want sharp little bits in it. And so nothing goes to waste. And I find it very economical and it's easy. I just have to do sides then. So, sweet potatoes or, we're also going to be doing some sauerkraut because I was gifted some free cabbage and I'll show you how easy it is to make sauerkraut. I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. And so, anyways, I hope you have a very blessed day. Remember, no fear. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And don't worry about tomorrow, for today has enough troubles of its own. So let's just and keep praying for our country, for Israel, for our president, for our government, that we continue to make righteous choices and that we stay in favor with God. So I love you all. Please like the video, share, subscribe. I really appreciate your help getting this out because, for the most part, I just want to see people be healthy and I want them to know the Lord and know that it's not about religion, but it's about a relationship with the Lord. And by you doing all those things, it helps that. And I'm on a mission for Him. It's not for me. I don't care about, we're not monetized. It's just, God gave me an aptitude towards health and I want to share it with you. And so that's really what it's all about. And I think our spiritual health is equally, if not more important than our physical health, because this life is limited, but forever is not limited. It is literally forever. And that's really a hard thing to wrap your head around. So I want you to have both. I want you to have a good, limited, mortal life and a phenomenal forever life. So love y'all. Have a great day. Bye bye.